Welcome, and I'm very happy to present the main findings of our independent research on actually with the main aim of getting a grip on the impact of COVID-19 on the partners of Dutch NGOs. And I'm also very happy that two of my colleagues are here, Luc van Kempen and Willem Elbers, because I didn't do this study on my own. They helped me quite a lot here. And we did this together, and I'm very happy that they're here also, because if you come up with a bit too many difficult questions, I'm very happy to hand over the mic to them. Okay, let's get started. So this is, we did our study in February, March last year. We did it together with 11 Dutch NGOs. You can see them below. We did a survey, first of all, with a response rate of 42%, so we were very happy with that, with organizations from no less than 28 different countries, and you can see those countries here as well. Next to that, we did some focus group discussions in 3 countries with a total of 16 participants, and we included both the focus group discussions and the survey in our study. So then let's move to the study and what came out of that study. So it's about the impact of COVID-19 and understanding that impact. But we also asked our respondents to indicate other challenges, actually outside, besides COVID, and whether they considered these other challenges to have less or more impact on them. And yes, there were, of course, other challenges. And overall, these other challenges may have somewhat more impact. But still, the impact of COVID-19 is certainly there. And overall, it's substantive. And it's mainly negative, as you can see from this figure, where I think it's about more than 80% of the respondents who are in the 1 to 5 bracket, which from very negative to medium. And only a few of them, just a handful, you could almost say, for which say, okay, the overall impact of COVID-19 is actually very positive. Now, looking at a bit more closer into the impact, then we say we focused on 3 different impacts, you could say, impact fields: on projects, programs, and activities, on finances, and on staff and organization, and particularly on staff. Now, the figure here shows what civil society organizations in the South feel is the most important area affected by the pandemic. And then you can see that 6 out of 10 feel it's in their activities. So let's first of all take a closer look at that. Practically all CSOs have seen changes in their regular activities due to COVID-19. The good news is that full shutdowns of their programs are very rare. It's only 1 or 2 in our sample, at least, that were hit that hard, you could say. There are 3 changes central. The first one is doing things differently, and that mainly relates to the way that they reach out to their target groups, you could say, in a lockdown situation. Now, there are a couple of examples here. So WhatsApp self-help groups, for instance, splitting up groups, using Zoom, what we are doing now here as well. All different ways in which they still managed to do their regular activities, but in a different way. Now, the second thing is that they started doing new things. And that often is that a move to, you could say, health, to WASH, to emergency, disaster relief. And it's often quite new to the CSO. Yeah? So we see advocacy organizations now taking up hygiene training or the provision of goods. And it's only occasionally, you could say, that CSOs seem to manage to combine these new activities with their regular interventions. Now, there's one very nice example, and I really like to tell that. It's a very small one. It's a very nice example of an Indian CSO, which is regularly working on peace and reconciliation between different religious groups. So they also switched to the provision of relief goods. But then they asked their Hindu priests to distribute goods in a Christian church. They asked the Christian priest to do the same in a mosque and an imam to do the same in a Hindu temple. I thought that was a very nice way in which their new activities were actually combined with their original mandate. And finally, and it's quite often a combination of these things, and finally we see that there are quite a lot of organizations that actually managed or are now serving new communities, new constituencies, new target groups. That's either with their new or with the same interventions. So they actually expanded their work and the way that they are working in. Undoubtedly, for a large part, also due to the fact that the call, the desire for their services has increased. Okay. Finances, very briefly, flexibility of donors, and that includes very strongly the Dutch partners, is highly valued. For instance, in the way that the money that was there now can be used and is allowed to be used in different ways than what was originally agreed upon. But there's also additional funding, and that's mainly for humanitarian assistance. So we can see also those CSOs that were active in that field or became active in that field actually saw an increase in revenue sometimes. Still, the majority saw a decrease. 6 out of 10 saw a decrease and sometimes a substantial decrease. And I would very much like to combine that a bit with if you look at the Dutch NGOs. So this figure clearly shows Partos members, and we got data of 85 of them. There are about 110 Partos members, if I'm correct, and quite a lot of other Dutch INGOs, more than 300 here. Now, if we put 2016 in terms of income at 100, you can see that Partos members actually managed in 2020 to show a substantial increase in their income compared to other NGOs, which actually saw a slight decrease in 2020. So that's, you could say, a bit of a sharp contrast maybe with the partners in the South. Okay, finally, is in the staff and organizations, only 6% feels that this is the most affected area. And some even indicate nothing has changed at all in this. But still, if you look at what has changed, you could also say that the impact on individual staff members might actually be quite high. For instance, because more than 6 out of 10 of the organizations said that they reduced salaries of staff. They have laid off staff. They have furloughed staff. The impact on these individual staff members must be quite high. We don't have any more detail on that, but it would be very interesting to take a further look into that. Okay. In terms of government support, local and central governments score very low on awareness and on support. And that's low compared to all other stakeholders, whether that's the constituencies of CSOs, whether it's donors, partners, and particularly the Dutch partners, whether it's other local organizations. Just as an example, it's 40% of the respondents feels that local governments are aware of the impact of COVID-19 on CSOs. And even less than 1/3 feels that central governments have in one way or another been supportive. Now, for Dutch partners, donors, in both cases, this is nearly 80%. So that's a huge difference. Final remark. Donors, and I already said that, they were highly appreciated for their support and flexibility, and that certainly holds for the Dutch NGOs. At the same time, secondly, you could say, and despite the fact that many expressed doubts whether COVID-19 will mean a structural change in the power relation between North and South in the long run, it's important to note that during COVID-19, the majority of Southern partners feel 6 out of 10, in both cases almost, that they feel that they have managed to work in more equal ways with their Dutch partners and that they have gained more power to make independent decisions, which is quite substantial, 6 out of 10. Now, we undoubtedly come back to this during the breakout sessions later on. And that leaves me with only one other thing, and that is this. It's a commercial, you could almost say, for our policy brief, which we made on our study, on the basis of our studies, and which was made possible by the generous donation of ABN AMRO. If all is well, Willem Elbers will put a link to the policy brief in the chat, so you can immediately access that. That's all from my side for now, apart from the fact that there might be some questions for clarification, not necessarily for the discussion as such, but maybe for clarification.